Hello there, you awakening wonders. Thanks for joining me today. Wherever you're watching this, make your way to Rumble and Rumble Premium, where we are rewarded and supported for our, I'm not going to call them crazy views, for our willingness to discuss outspoken topics in environments that historically have been difficult to talk about. Like before, like now, you can say what you want on Facebook. You can go on Facebook and say this. I'm not sure about them vaccines. You can say that. You can do that on Facebook now. Right, you're watching Facebook, aren't you? You just saw me say it. Or you can go on Facebook and say, look, I'm not sure that NATO's actions helped this Russia-Ukraine conflict and probably contribute to the start of it. And you can also, more than anything else, say, so weird went on with the murder of JFK. Whatever happened to JFK, it weren't Lee Harvey Oswald. He's a loner. He's a deranged loner. I'm a loner. A loner that spent some weird time in Russia. I've seen Oliver Stone's film. Well, soon we're going to see the actual files. And one of the markers of whether or not Trump is legit is going to be, does he declassify? Does he reveal? Does he expose? Now, we're all a bit worried about the AI mRNA stuff, except for like David Icke will be like, I told you. There will be some people saying, I told you. And I don't mean just people on the left, I told you because of sort of woke-oriented things, but people that are saying, he's got to be part of the machine. He must be part of the machine. Well, he is revealing the JFK files. The JFK assassination is, in a sense, the Coca-Cola of conspiracy theories, isn't it? We all know that. We all know, and people probably had an idea at the time, other than Jack Ruby, who was roused by terrible passions, that Lee Harvey Oswald wasn't the perpetrator of that crime. And even if he was working in collusion with deep state assets, or he was working in collusion with the Cubans. I mean, the actual Oliver Stone version is quite complicated and confusing. We're actually going to bring you some new and interesting information. A CIA agent who claims that Lyndon Johnson was directly involved in the assassination. And these are the kind of things that we're all going to know and understand thanks to the Trump declassification. Let's have a look at how the legacy media are reporting on that.
Lastly, sir, we have an executive order ordering the declassification of files relating to the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy.
In general, I've enjoyed the executive orders, haven't you? When he threw a pen into a crowd and all that kind of thing. Some of them have been brilliant. Not all of them, but some of them have been fantastic. I'm pretty happy about the release of Ross Ulbricht, the Silk Road dude. I think that's pretty cool. I suppose that's more pardon territory. And I'm really interested in declassification because I'm old school. So I'm all about learning what the government, this is what I believe, that the vast majority of clandestine and concealed information is concealed precisely because if you knew it, you'd become non-compliant. If they showed you, this is how things really work, you'd go, well, you can't rely on my obedience for another second. So I reckon we're going to get some significant declassification. We're going to learn things about Pfizer. We're going to learn things about JFK. We might even learn things about UFOs. And remember, watch us on Rumble next Monday because I'll be talking to Jeremy Corbell and I'm going to take him as far as I can with they're non-human and all that kind of stuff. But for now, let's focus on the conspiracy 0.0 of JFK and the executive order and what will be the significant revelations, or do you think it's all tied up? Let me know in the comments and chat if you think it'll have been sanitized prior to
Senator Robert F. Kennedy and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
That's a big one, huh? A lot of people are waiting for this for years.
Oh, he's a showman, isn't he? Like, I feel like I didn't see other presidents do that. I don't remember when Bill Clinton's doing that or when Barack Obama's doing it. They were sort of surrounded by people. And when it was Bill Clinton, come on, bring the intern a little closer. Bring the intern closer. Like, with Trump, he's actually doing little jokes. Whoa, this is a good one. Like, he's bringing showbiz to it. Like, there are moments when you look at, I've said this before, political events, and they're becoming increasingly indecipherable from sporting and entertainment events, whether that was the DNC, looking like the MTV VMAs that I've hosted, like literally using the geography, the studio geography of it and the architecture of shots. And then also just sometimes rallies where it might as well be that what do they call him? Randy Savage? What was Randy Savage? The
Macho Man Randy Savage, the cream of the crop.
Macho Man Randy Savage. He wasn't a madman. He was macho. He wasn't like, he wasn't furious or insane. He was macho. Yeah, it just looks increasingly WWF or WWE or whatever you have to call it now. Anyway, let's get back to these executive orders with flair. And we're going to be talking about what are we going to learn about JFK. This is the big one.
for decades. And everything will be revealed.
I think the mic's a bit hot. I don't hear that Sharpie creeping across the page like that, but everything will be revealed. But will everything be revealed? Because a COVID inquiry, a JFK inquiry, a 9/11 inquiry, if you ask me, would bring us all to the point where we would not trust government of any confection ever again, and would demand massive decentralization, that we would use existing technology to, wherever possible, bring decision-making processes as close to the people affected by them as is conceivable. It will be the end of centralization, the end of mass, the kind of, when I say like advanced capitalism, I mean the kind of capitalism that leads to the sort of power that Amazon has and some big tech organizations have. There's literally no reason at all not to go in there and decentralize them, regulate them, start making them community owned. These things are actually possible, and I think would make the world a better place. I'm not talking about socialism, I'm talking about collectively owned assets that are controlled by the communities. People would say, that will stop people trying, but it won't stop people trying. We're not talking about people making money from selling, for example, delicious beverages. I'm talking about control of infrastructure and control of community. In fact, it's going to be necessary if the HHS are going to change America's health significantly, so that we eat well, so that we exercise well. You have to empower people locally. For example, you can't even make a modest change to the fact that 20% of all welfare food stamps are spent on sugary drinks without saying, well, what's an alternative? Locally grown organic food? Right, now you've got to have locally grown organic food. The world's going to change. It's going to change radically and rapidly. Is Donald Trump going to be the person that brings it about, or will essentially deep state mechanics and globalist interests curtail, control and contain that power? Something like the release of the JFK files is an indication that real change could be coming. But how real? Here's Trump revealing that Mike Pompeo, former CIA director, told him not to release the full JFK assassination documents. Then we'll have a look at an interview between a former CIA operative who claims that Lyndon Johnson directly told him to have JFK murdered. I mean, there's some extraordinary stuff out there. Oh no, we're all going to get older and die. It's difficult. We might as well look nice while we're waiting for the inevitable death. And whilst I may believe in eternal life through redemption, you might not. And you might therefore want a wrinkle cream. Now, wrinkle creams are sometimes deceptive little devices, little better than moisturizers. That's why I want to draw your attention to this clip. According to Dr. John Lake, the world-renowned Beverly Hills beauty expert, most wrinkle fixes on the market are nothing but glorified moisturizers. Moisturizers, but glorified. Can you imagine? They hardly make a dent on your appearance, and some could even be harmful, he said. That's why he wants to take your attention away from mainstream cosmetic practices and draw you towards this extraordinary new product. There's a 2-minute video that we want you to watch. It's a viral video that's had millions of views and much positive feedback that alludes to, draws attention to, and helps us to analyse and scrutinise a new wrinkle cream that's powerful and effective. So to learn more about this extraordinary new product that's been called Photoshop for your face and better than any other moisturiser, go right now to bhmd1.com/brand or click the link in the description below. That's bhmd1.com/brand. Click on the link in the description below. Surely all of us want to embalm the cadaver before we even die and look glorious while we're still here on this bandwidth.
Will you investigate these assassination attempts? And you stated that you will release the files, all of the files, as it relates to the JFK assassination. And by the way, this is his desk.
Yeah, that's right.
This is where John Kennedy, little John Kennedy.
It's a movable door.
Yeah.
It's a little door there. That's where John was.
John, yeah.
Yeah, that's not the only reason that little desk there, is it? Like Marilyn Monroe barreling in. That is enough of that. You are making me look bad in front of my... That little door is for John. Ask not what that little door can do for me. Ask instead what I can do. Look, get out of here.
And RFK, and also Martin Luther King Jr., and that you will be transparent. This was going to happen in the first
So many
term.
people have asked me to do that. And I did it with Kennedy to an extent. But I was asked by some of our government officials not to. And, you have to respect them. I was actually asked by Mike Pompeo, who's Secretary of State, not to. And I felt he knew something that maybe, when he asks you not to, you sort of say, why? And he felt that it was just not a good time to release him. And you might ask him why. Maybe he'll deny that even. But he did. He asked me. And some others also, though. They didn't want the Kennedy stuff released.
Why? Why isn't it a good time to release him? And unless these revelations have information in them that radicalize you, I would say something's still being held back, because there's no way that they held these documents for, is it getting on for 70 years, 75 years, unless there is relevant, sorry, it's 50 years, unless there's, I'm not very good with numbers, unless there's relevant and significant information in them. So if they come out now, because it didn't, Biden deferred it again, it was meant to come, it was even just on the mandatory schedule was meant to be released last year, and it wasn't. So if it comes out and it's really, Lee Harvey Oswald, he had a few friends are a bit rough around the edges, unless it's full on CIA were involved, it was planned in advance, and maybe even something like this. I don't know the veracity of this asset entirely, I don't fully understand it, but this is a CIA agent claiming that Lyndon Johnson, who of course was vice president at the time of JFK's assassination, was involved in it. And what I feel like, as I said to you a minute ago, is that if you had a full COVID inquiry in almost any developed nation that was subject to its WHO or GERD tyranny, or if you had a full inquiry into 9/11, you would learn so much about how government actually behaves and works that you would become non-compliant. That's why Julian Assange spent 5 years in Belmarsh prison in the United Kingdom without trial, while Keir Starmer, current Prime Minister, was leader of the Labour Party that's now in government, and prior to that he was head of the Crown Prosecution Service. That's like being Attorney General. So that's the kind of storyline that lets you know that people in positions of power are generally globalist shills, bureaucrats, legislators that have ties to groups like the WEF, and when in earlier bureaucratic office behave in accordance with the intentions and agenda of the globalists. The JFK files is the Coca-Cola, the prima auto, the sort of what do I want to call it? It's like the essential conspiracy theory, because it shows you that nominally the world's most powerful man can be assassinated, killed, removed, controlled. There's a scale by other ulterior powers. Now where we are we full circle with Donald Trump? He's in a sense a shadow figure to JFK. JFK was a figure of light, Camelot. The imagery around him was very sort of luminous, although likely it masked some complexity when it comes to his father's relationship with crime organisations and his own sexual peccadillos while in office. What we have now in Trump is someone that's been not idolised or idealised, but in fact demonised significantly. I'm talking about by sort of establishment powers. Will he, like JFK threatened to, expose the power of the deep state, or will he ultimately end up complying? Let's have a look at this interesting little asset here. This is a CIA agent letting us know that he believes, or that he's sort of, it's a primary source claiming that Lyndon Johnson was involved.
Treat me today. Well, Saul, it's been a pretty touch and go situation. Lyndon and I have had quite a few unpleasant words here lately over the deal that he hired Mike Wallace to assassinate the president. It's been hectic in every way, but we've lived through it this far, and I guess we'll continue to do so. Lyndon should have never issued that order to Mike.
Certainly shouldn't have done, should he? I mean, that was an order to assassinate JFK, which by any reckoning is wrong.
But we've had our differences, and I'm a true blue to Lyndon, as I've always been, and tried to carry out every order that he'd ever given me. But this is one I'll probably never be able to forget. And the times that we've had.
The Zapruder film, never not disturbing for a long time. That piece of evidence was significantly controlled.
In Texas, and the embarrassment that Lyndon had gotten from Kennedy, I guess there wasn't anything else to do but what he did.
You might have seen some of the clips online of the driver apparently turning to shoot JFK. You might have seen some of the footage where a tree appears to be anomalously situated, suggesting some editing or tampering with film. You might have seen Oliver Stone's JFK movie. Whatever your position is on the release of these files, it's in a sense it's the dynamic itself that interests me. Why were these files ever secret? Because the information in them would cause a massive uprising. Why was the documentation around Pfizer's clinical trials and the nature of their contracts with the government held to be clandestine? What kind of investigation is required when it comes to the events around 9/11? What do you imagine you're not being told when it comes to UFOs? And in a sense, let me know in the comments and chat if you agree with this. Would it be germane for us to collectively assume that if we actually knew how we are controlled by our governments, whether you're talking about state government or international government through bureaucratic alliances, NATO, WHO, IMF, World Bank, whatever, choose your poison. If we actually knew the way it worked, let alone if there are darker or occultist aspects to it, which I also believe is not only a possibility, a fact actually, if we knew, we would behave differently. So the control of the information is itself an indicator that we are locked into a false dynamic where we are being controlled, where we're being subjugated, where we're being denied the authority that we all have in our lives. And we can only lay claim to that authority if we understand what it is and from where all authority comes. And I know what I believe that to be. And you can let me know in the comments and chat what you think about it, because what I think is only what I think. Remember, we stream every day. No, we don't. Monday to Friday, we stream on Rumble. Become a member of Rumble Premium. And thank you for supporting our content. More important than that, if you can, please stay free. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.